When I was at the miniature show and sale, I picked up these 8 plates. Actually, I bought 2 sets of them, so I have 16 in total. And I figured, oh, these would be perfect little platters to display some of the cookies that I made. And they only cost me $1 for 8 plates. So good deal. Can't wait to show you what I do with them. So first of all, I'm kind of going for a rustic look. Like I want them to look like they're enamel plates that have seen better days. So I started off with gesso and I painted over them with gesso rather than spray them with a white undercoat. I didn't have any white spray paint, so I used gesso instead this time. Like I say, you use what you got. And then I took this deep red Fimo and I'm just rolling little tiny balls, and I'm actually going to be making some little donuts or tiny little cookies for on top of the plates, in addition to the stuff that I made the other weekend. So I'm just rolling out 24 of these little tiny circles, which is quite easy to do. And, you know, as I say, a lot of people are intimidated by Fimo, but really it's not as difficult to work with as you would think. It's actually pretty easy. So I've got to roll out 24 of these little tiny balls. And there you go. I've got them all rolled out. And now I have it, the coloring's bad on this, but actually it's white Fimo with some butter yellow mixed into it. And it's the same color that I use for my pies that I bake, so that's what I use for the pie crust, and this is the leftovers. So as you can see here, I just rolled them into little tiny round balls, and the balls don't even have to be perfect, because you know when you do baking, nothing is perfect. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking this little ball stylist and I'm just kind of squishing a little bit of a hole in the center, and then I'm putting one of the red cherry fillings into the center of it. Now I guess in 1/12 scale they would probably be thumbprint cookies. In my scale they're more like a Danish or some kind of a donut. So it doesn't really matter though. They just look really nice on the plate and add a little bit of variance to the plate. So I'm just squishing them, and then I'm squishing the little red berry thing in the center of it. So now I've got them all on my pie plate ready to bake, but before I bake them, I want them to look a little bit more realistic. And how I'm going to do this is I've got out chalk pastel this time. So I'm just drawing on a piece of sandpaper with some chalk pastel, and then I'm getting out my paintbrush, and you don't want to go too heavy on this, and you just kind of want to do around the edges so that it looks like it was baked in the oven. And that's it. They're really easy to make, these little cookie doodads. They're simple, easy, and they really look quite realistic once they're baked. So you can see here some have got a little bit of the chalk pastel on them, others do not. So I'm just going back in and just kind of highlighting the ones that don't have any chalk pastel. And you don't have to use too much of it, just less is more. So, and once again, you know, if you mess up with this stuff, it's not a big deal. I've used such a minuscule amount. It's really not a hassle at all to redo them. So I've got these all ready to bake in the oven. In the meantime, they've been baked, so I baked them for about 8 minutes, I think at 175 degrees. I've let them cool off. Now I've got the high gloss varnish out and my little tiny brush, and I'm just going to varnish the red part, because where the jelly would be, of course, that would be shiny, and the rest of the little baked good would not be shiny. So I'm just going on into the center of each one and just putting a little tiny dollop of the high gloss, and there you go, they're finished. So that's in addition to the other things that I baked the other day. So Yeah, that's perfect. So now I took white acrylic paint and I had painted both the front and the backs of the plates, so they're already painted. Then I took out some navy acrylic paint and I'm going to be dry brushing these dishes. Again, I'm going for the rustic look, so I want them to look completely rustic. So what I'm doing is I'm loading my brush, then wiping it off, and then just going over the areas where the little floral design was. And I mean, I barely got any paint on this brush, and so I'm going for just a very, very light dry brush. So you can see here where the leaves and the stems are, and there's like little flowers. It'll be a better close-up at the end, but yeah, it turned out quite well. So once again, my white paint is a little bit streaky. I did that intentionally because I really want this to look old and vintage, like these plates have been around for 100 years and they're slightly worn out. So that's kind of the look that I was going for. So and then of course I'm just gonna dry brush a little bit around the edge of each plate, and yeah, they actually turned out rather nicely. You'll see when I do a better close-up of how good it actually looks. So and you can see here I'm just kind of going around the edge, just putting a little bit of that blue all the way around the edge of each plate, and there you go. That's plate number 1. So if I go a little bit closer, maybe you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and I'm going to do all 8 plates. I won't do all 8 plates on camera, and I apologize if I'm slightly out of frame here, but just kind of showing you how I do it. So and again, when you're doing this dry brushing, it's less is more. So, and I'm just kind of highlighting the areas where the metal pattern was raised on these plates, and just kind of trying to bring out the little flowers that existed on these little dishes. So these dishes weren't particularly well made. I actually had to sand the edge of them before I was even able to paint them white, because there were some sharp pieces on them. But that's okay. I mean, they're gonna exactly be perfect for my purposes today. So once again, I'm just going in and I'm highlighting the little flowers and the little leaves and the little twigs that are on it. And I actually am really thrilled with the way this turned out. So, and I think it just added that little bit of punch by going around the edge of each plate and giving it just a little bit of a navy blue edge. I mean, barely. I mean, I'm barely using any paint on these at all. So, but it does show up really well when it's done. So, I'm just, can you see how well that one flower shows up? This camera angle probably isn't the best angle to demonstrate what it is that I'm doing, but it's the best that I could come up with. I'd really like to be able to have one of those fancy cameras that people film with, but I just use an iPad, and so far it's serviced me fairly well. So again, I'm not going to show you the painting of each and every plate, but just to kind of give you the idea. And again, you know, you can't really screw up on something like this, because if you don't like the way it turns out, well, you can just paint over it. It's not a big deal. So I really like a rustic look, and I don't know what it is about blue and white plates in a dollhouse kitchen. I just think they're so pretty. So and you can see here I'm just kind of going around the edge and just kind of giving it a little zap of color just around the edge. And I don't care if I overpaint it a little bit. It's not a big deal. So yeah, I think that's what they'd look like if they were made out of enamel and 100 years old. Not too shabby. So I've finished painting all 8 of the plates. I've got them outside, and I've got some Actually, I think I accidentally sprayed them with semi-gloss paint to begin with, or sorry, semi-gloss varnish to begin with, but I ended up having to go back in and do high gloss varnish on them. So I'm just spraying them real quick. So I have to spray the top, let that dry, flip them over, spray the bottom, let that dry. Then I realized I had semi-gloss and not high gloss, so I had to repeat the process a second time, which is pretty typical for the way I do things. So I am very pleased with the outcome, though. I think it turned out rather well. So you can see what they look like. Now they're sprayed, and they've been sprayed with high gloss now. So they've each had 2 coats on the top and 2 coats on the bottom. So, and I think that's like kind of a nice way to like highlight these very cheap dishes. So there you go. Here's a little bit better view of them. So I'm quite pleased with the outcome of them. I mean, I just needed to have some plates in order to display all these baked goods that I've made. So I think this is going to work. And actually, I can see here in this view, you can actually see the blue a little bit better. So here's some little chocolate chip muffins that I've made, and I'm just putting a little bit of tacky glue on them, and I'm just going to be evenly dispersing all of my baked goods onto all of these little plates. So I don't have quite enough baked goods to do all of the plates, but I think I was able to fill up 6 of them anyways. So, and once again, another little muffin that I'm putting on each of the plates. So I think they turned out rather cute. You can see here in the bottom middle of the screen, those are the little half-scale pies that I did. I did not use any of the pies on my plates, but I did take them out because I plan on putting them into my Trang kitchen as well as my GB kitchen. And so I'm just like slowly just kind of taking my time, arranging the little pastry dishes just to kind of give it a nice little look. And see, I'm really glad that I made those. I mean, they kind of look a little bit like the ones with the red dots in the center. They kind of look a little bit like, what is that called? Shortbread pastry. So there you go. So this is a final look. I didn't make that apple. My friend Pat actually made the apple for me. But you can see here, there's just like a good variety of tasty treats. Too bad they aren't real. They actually look pretty appetizing, don't they? They make me a little bit hungry. So I've got these plates made up of beautiful baked goods, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the outcome. And there's the pies. I just threw them on top of a plate, but of course I'm not going to serve them like that in the dollhouse. I just put them on there for display purposes. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to help support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/LisaDobo. I'd like to thank everyone that has bought me a coffee in buymeacoffee.com. I'd also like to ask everybody that's watched today's video, if you aren't already subscribed, would you please consider subscribing, because it really does help my channel out. And please press that notification button so you're notified every time I post a video. And hit that like button. And once again, everyone, have the best day ever.